Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the screen in her laboratory, her hands shaking. The message was clear, even though it was written in a language humans had never seen before. Their computer had spent 3 months learning to decode it, and now the translation was complete. Sarah wished it had never worked. The message was not meant for humans. It was a conversation between others, beings from somewhere else in the galaxy talking about Earth, talking about what to do with humanity. Sarah read the words again, hoping she had misunderstood. But the meaning was simple and cold. The human species remains too violent for contact. Recommendation: maintain quarantine indefinitely. If they develop faster than light travel, initiate sterilization protocols before they can spread. Her coffee cup slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. She did not notice. For 400 years, humans had been sending messages into space. Radio signals, mathematical proofs, pictures of Earth, music from every culture. They had built bigger and bigger telescopes, searching for any sign that someone else was out there. They had asked the universe one simple question: are we alone? Now Sarah knew the answer. No, humanity was not alone, but everyone else had been watching in silence, judging and deciding that humans were not worthy of joining them. Sarah worked at the Global Space Initiative, a research center funded by 70 nations. 3 years ago, they had achieved something remarkable. Dr. Yuki Tanaka had created the first working faster-than-light engine. It was small, barely enough to power a probe, but it worked. Humanity could finally reach the stars. The team had been celebrating for months. They had sent the probe to Alpha Centauri and back. The trip took 6 days instead of years. The breakthrough would change everything. Humans would build colony ships, explore new worlds, and maybe, finally, meet their neighbors in the cosmos. But 2 months ago, Sarah had pointed their new FTL communication array in a different direction. She had been scanning frequencies that normal radios could not reach, frequencies that only existed when traveling faster than light. She wanted to see if anyone else was using FTL technology. That was when she found the collective. The signals were everywhere, thousands of them, like a vast network spanning the galaxy. Entire civilizations talking to each other, sharing information, trading, living their lives. And Earth had never heard any of it because the collective did not want humans to hear. Sarah had found the truth by accident. One message had been corrupted during transmission, and its encryption had broken. Her computer had intercepted it and begun analyzing it. Now she had translated dozens of messages, and each one made her feel sicker. The collective was made up of 847 different species. They had laws, governments, and rules. One of their oldest rules was called the Silence Protocol. When a new species began sending signals into space, the collective would watch them. They would study their culture, their history, their nature. They would decide if the species was peaceful enough to join. If the answer was yes, they would make contact when the species developed FTL travel. If the answer was no, they would stay silent. The species would remain isolated, alone, forever. For species that developed FTL anyway, species that might spread into collective space, there was a darker option: sterilization, complete destruction. Humanity had been watched for 4 centuries. The Veiled Watchers, a group assigned to observe Earth, had written thousands of reports. Sarah had read many of them. Humans show creativity and intelligence, one report said, but they also show tribalism, violence, and aggression. They fight wars over resources, ideas, and territory. They damage their own planet. They cannot be trusted in the larger community. Another report was more direct. Humanity is dangerous. They must never leave their world. Sarah had called an emergency meeting. Every director of the Global Space Initiative was now sitting in the conference room. The air was thick with tension. On the screen, Sarah displayed the translated messages. "We are not alone," she said quietly. "We have never been alone, but they have been hiding from us." Director James Okafor from Nigeria leaned forward. He was a large man with gray hair and a deep voice. "Are you certain about this, Dr. Chen?" "I have verified the translations 50 times, Sarah said. "I brought in linguists, cryptographers, and 3 AI analysis systems. They all confirm the same thing. There is a galactic civilization out there, and they have decided we are not good enough to join them." The room erupted in angry voices. Some directors shouted in disbelief. Others demanded to see the raw data. Dr. Tanaka sat silently, his face pale. General Markov from Russia stood up. If this is true, we need to bring this to our governments immediately. This is a matter of global security. It is more than that, said Dr. Amara Ose from Ghana. This is about our entire species. They are deciding our fate without giving us a voice. For 3 weeks, the world's leaders met in closed sessions. The existence of the collective was kept secret from the public while they debated what to do. The arguments were fierce. Some leaders wanted to plead with the collective. They suggested sending messages of peace, promising that humanity would change, that they would prove themselves worthy. Others were furious. We do not need their permission to exist, the Brazilian president argued. They have been watching us like insects in a cage. They have judged us without ever speaking to us. Why should we beg for their approval? The Chinese premier was more cautious. If we defy them, they may destroy us. The message mentioned sterilization. We must assume they have the power to do it. But the American president countered, if we submit now, we submit forever. They will control where we go, what we do, how we live. Is that the future we want for our children? The debate spread. Soon the secret could not be contained. News of the collective leaked to the media. Within days, every human on Earth knew the truth. They were not alone, but they had been rejected. The reaction was unlike anything in history. Some people were afraid. Some were angry. But most felt something deeper, defiance. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They had climbed from caves to reach the moon. And now someone was telling them they could not reach any further. A global vote was held. Every nation participated. The question was simple. Should humanity ask for permission, or should they go to the stars on their own terms? The results came in. 73% voted the same way. Gosara Chen stood in the control room of the Global Space Initiative 1 month later. Beside her was James Okafor, now appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the stars, though he had no one to speak to yet. Behind them, technicians worked at dozens of stations preparing the most important message humanity would ever send. Are we ready? Okafor asked. Sarah nodded. The message will broadcast on every frequency we can generate, including all the FTL channels the collective uses. Every species in the galaxy will hear it, and then we see what they do, Sarah said. Okafor looked at the screen where the message was displayed. It was written in English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, Hindi, and 50 other languages, but it would also be translated into the collective's common language. Every species would understand it. The message was short. We know you are out there. We know you have been watching. We know your judgment. You had your chance to meet us as friends. We are coming anyway. Humanity. Okafor gave the signal. A technician pressed the button. The message launched into space at faster-than-light speed, racing toward every corner of the galaxy. Within hours, it would reach thousands of worlds. Sarah felt her heart pounding. What have we done? Okafor smiled, though his eyes were serious. We told the truth. Now we see if they can handle it. Across the Earth, 6 colony ships were already being prepared. Their destinations were 6 star systems within 20 light-years of Earth. All of them were in space claimed by the collective. Humanity was coming, whether the galaxy was ready or not. The Crucible station floated in the darkness between stars, a massive structure of metal and crystal that had stood for 3 million years. Inside its great chamber, representatives from 847 species gathered in emergency session. Nothing like this had happened in their recorded history. Archon Velith stood at the center of the chamber, her tall, slender form wrapped in robes that shimmered with captured starlight. She was a Sirene, one of the oldest species in the collective, and she had led them for 200 years. Her face showed no emotion as she addressed the assembly. The humans have defied the silence protocol, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. They have announced their intention to colonize systems within our space. They have rejected our authority before even understanding it. This cannot stand. A roar of agreement came from one section of the chamber. The Kragoth delegation stood, their massive bodies covered in armored plates, their eyes burning with warrior pride. Their speaker, War Chief Dravok, stepped forward. The solution is simple, Dravok growled. We send our fleets to Earth. We destroy their ships and their space stations. We make it clear that defiance means death. They are one small world. We are nearly 1,000 civilizations. They will submit or be eliminated. Many species shouted their support, but others remained silent and a few voices spoke against the war chief. Ambassador Torvin moved to the speaking platform. He was from a species called the Enlightened Ones, beings of pure thought who had given up physical bodies millions of years ago. When he spoke, his words appeared directly in the minds of everyone present. "I must object," Torvin said. "The humans did not defy us out of ignorance. They discovered our surveillance. They learned that we have been watching them for 4 centuries and judging them in silence. Their message was not unprovoked aggression. It was a response to our decision to exclude them. They are violent," another delegate shouted. "The reports show endless wars, genocides, and destruction. They fight among themselves constantly. They also show cooperation, art, love, and sacrifice," Torvin replied. "Yes, they have conflict, but they also have progress. They ended slavery. They built global organizations. They are learning. Should we not give them the chance we gave ourselves?" Archon Velith raised her hand for silence. "The silence protocol exists for a reason. We have seen species like humanity before, species that reach for the stars with weapons in their hands. If we allow humans into the galaxy unchecked, they will bring chaos. That is what the protocol prevents." "Then why not speak to them?" Torvin challenged. "Why not guide them? We chose silence when we could have chosen mentorship. We made ourselves their secret judges. Perhaps that was our mistake." The chamber erupted in argument. Species that had been allies for millennia now shouted at each other. The question divided them. Should the collective enforce its rules with violence, or should they reconsider the rules themselves? While they argued, humanity's message reached every corner of civilized space. On 1,000 worlds, people heard Earth's declaration. Most saw it as the ravings of a primitive species that did not understand the order of things. But some heard something different. They heard courage. They heard defiance. And they began to wonder if the collective was as just as it claimed to be. 3 weeks after the message was sent, the colony ship Magellan reached the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Commander Marcus Webb stood on the bridge, watching the new sun grow larger on the view screen. Behind him, 4,000 colonists were in cryosleep, dreaming of their new home. "Commander," his navigation officer said, "we're picking up ships ahead. Multiple contacts, military configuration." Webb felt his stomach tighten. "Put them on screen." 6 massive warships appeared, each one 5 times the size of the Magellan. They bore the markings of the Kragoth warrior clans. A message came through on the communication system. The voice was harsh, translated by their computer into English. "Human vessel, this is War Commander Krath of the Kragoth Empire. You are in violation of collective space law. You will power down your engines and return to your system immediately, or you will be destroyed." Webb looked at his crew. They were scientists, engineers, and families. Not soldiers, but they had all known this might happen. He opened the communication channel. "War Commander, this is Marcus Webb of Earth. We are not here to make war. We are here to build a colony on the 4th planet of this system. We have no quarrel with the Kragoth or the collective." "You have no permission to be here," Krath replied. "That is quarrel enough. Turn back now." Webb took a deep breath. "No." The word hung in the silence. Webb continued, "You do not own this system. You do not own the stars. We have as much right to be here as anyone. We are not turning back." "Then you will die," Krath said simply. The communication cut off. The Kragoth ships moved into attack formation. Webb turned to his crew. "Get everyone to the emergency pods. Set the ship's reactor to overload on my command. If we are going down, we are taking some of them with us." His second officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, stared at him. "Commander, there are children on this ship, families." "I know," Webb said quietly. "And if we run now, every human ship that comes after us will face the same threat. We have to show them that we will not be scared away, that we are willing to pay the price for our freedom." The crew moved with desperate speed. Evacuation pods launched toward empty space, small enough that the Kragoth might not target them. Webb and a skeleton crew stayed on the bridge. The first Kragoth weapon struck the Magellan's shields, and the ship shook violently. The shields held for 5 seconds, then collapsed. The second shot tore through the hull, killing half the remaining crew instantly. Webb activated the reactor overload sequence. "All remaining crew abandon ship now." "You have 90 seconds!" He stayed at his station, his hands steady as he aimed the dying ship at the nearest Kragoth vessel. The Magellan was not a warship, but it was large, and its reactor was about to become a bomb. "For Earth," Webb whispered. The Magellan's reactor exploded. The blast consumed the ship, and the nearest Kragoth vessel completely. The shockwave damaged 2 more Kragoth ships, sending them spinning out of control. A 4th ship took heavy damage to its engines. Of the 6 Kragoth warships, only 2 remained fully operational. They destroyed the escaping pods methodically one by one, but 16 pods managed to reach the outer system and went dark, hiding in the asteroid field. War Commander Krath stared at the debris field where the human ship had been. He had lost 3 ships and 2,000 warriors to a civilian transport vessel. The humans had sacrificed themselves, but they had done it in a way that shocked him. They had not begged. They had not surrendered. They had rammed his fleet with their dying ship, turning their colony transport into a weapon. Krath sent his report back to the collective. The humans will not retreat. They chose death over surrender. If we are to stop them, it will cost us dearly. On Earth, the news of the Magellan's destruction arrived 2 days later. Sarah Chen watched the broadcast with tears running down her face. 4,000 people dead. Families, children, dreamers, all gone. But the newscaster continued. 16 escape pods are confirmed to have survived. The colonists are alive in the Proxima Centauri system, and they are refusing evacuation. They have sent a message back to Earth. We are staying. Send more ships. Around the world, humanity's reaction was not fear. It was fury. The Magellan had been a peaceful vessel, carrying farmers and teachers and engineers. The collective had murdered them for the crime of wanting to live under a new sun. Every spaceship construction facility on Earth went to full production. Every nation poured resources into the colony program. 5 more colony ships were already in flight, and now 100 more were being built. Ambassador Okafor appeared on every screen and broadcast channel. His face was hard, his voice steady. They have shown us who they are, he said. They claim to value peace, but they met our peaceful ship with weapons. They claim to value life, but they killed thousands who only wanted to farm and build. They had 400 years to talk to us. They chose silence. They chose judgment, and when we refused to accept that judgment, they chose murder. He paused, letting the words sink in. So let me be clear. We are not stopping. We are not turning back. Every human who died on the Magellan will be remembered, and their sacrifice will not be wasted. We are going to the stars. If the collective wants to stop us, they will have to kill us all, and we will make them pay for every life they take. The speech echoed across the galaxy, and on a dozen worlds where other species had been suppressed, where they had been told they were not worthy, where they had been forced into silence, people began to wonder. If humanity could defy the collective, maybe they could too. The colony on New Nairobi had been built in just 8 months. The planet was harsh with thin air and extreme temperatures, but it was habitable. 800 humans had landed there, and they had worked day and night to build shelters, farms, and defenses. They knew the collective would come eventually. Colonel Lisa Mbatha stood on the defensive wall, looking out at the red desert that stretched to the horizon. She had been a soldier in the African Union Defense Force before volunteering for the colony mission. Now she was the military commander of humanity's most distant outpost. They are coming, her second-in-command said, pointing at the sky. Lisa raised her binoculars. She could see them now. Dozens of dark shapes descending through the atmosphere. Troop carriers. The collective was not sending warships this time. They were sending soldiers to take the colony by force. Sound the alarm, Lisa ordered. Get every civilian into the underground shelters. Combat teams to your positions. The colony had only 120 trained soldiers. The rest were engineers, doctors, farmers, and teachers. But every adult had been given basic combat training, and every person over 16 had a weapon. They would need all of them. The collective troops landed 2 kilometers from the colony. Lisa watched through her scope as the enemy forces assembled. There were thousands of them. She recognized Kragoth warriors, their armor gleaming in the sun. There were also Silenti soldiers, tall and thin, carrying energy weapons. And there were other species Lisa had never seen before, all united under the collective banner. A message came through on the communication system. Human colonists, this is Commander Zetrix of the Collective Security Force. You are occupying this world illegally. Surrender now and you will be transported back to Earth unharmed. Resist and we will take the colony by force. Lisa activated her microphone. Commander Zetrix, this is Colonel Mbatha. We are not leaving. This is our home now. If you want it, you will have to take it from us. You are 800 civilians facing 10,000 trained soldiers, Zetrix replied. Surrender is your only option. Then you do not understand humans very well, Lisa said. Come and try. The communication ended. Lisa turned to her troops. Most of them looked terrified, but they held their positions. She had told them the truth during training. They probably would not survive this battle, but Earth needed time. Every day the colonies held out. Earth was building more ships, better weapons, stronger defenses. Their job was to make the collective pay dearly for every meter of ground. Remember, Lisa said quietly, we do not need to win. We just need to make them bleed. The collective attack began at dawn. Artillery fire rained down on the colony's outer defenses, destroying the walls Lisa's team had spent months building. But beneath those walls were tunnels, and inside those tunnels were traps. The first wave of collective soldiers charged through the broken walls and ran straight into minefields. Explosions tore through their ranks, killing dozens. The survivors pressed forward, only to find themselves in a maze of trenches and bunkers, each one filled with human defenders. Lisa had studied Earth's history carefully. She knew humanity's greatest victories had always come from guerrilla warfare, from making enemies fight for every inch, from turning their strength into a weakness. The collective had numbers and technology, but humans had desperation and creativity. The battle became a nightmare for the collective forces. They would take a building only to have it collapse on them, rigged with explosives. They would advance down a street only to be ambushed from hidden positions. They would call for air support, only to have their aircraft shot down by missiles fired from disguised launchers. 3 days into the battle, the collective had lost 800 soldiers. They had taken half the colony, but every meter had been paid for in blood. The human defenders had lost 200 fighters, and their ammunition was running low. Lisa fought from a bunker near the colony's central hub. Her rifle was hot from constant firing, and her arm was bandaged where shrapnel had cut her. Around her, exhausted soldiers reloaded their weapons with shaking hands. "Colonel," her communications officer said, "the enemy is preparing another assault. This time they are bringing heavy armor." Lisa nodded. The end was coming. But they had held for 3 weeks. 3 weeks longer than the collective had expected. 3 weeks that Earth had used to prepare. She activated the general communication channel, broadcasting to every soldier in the colony. "All forces, this is Mbatha. We have fought well. The enemy thought they would sweep through here in a day. We have made them fight for 21 days. But our ammunition is almost gone, and they are bringing everything they have for the final push." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "I will not ask you to die for nothing. Any person who wants to surrender may do so. I will not think less of you. You have already proven your courage." Silence followed. Then, one by one, her soldiers responded. "Still here, Colonel. Not going anywhere." "They want the colony? Make them work for it." Lisa felt tears in her eyes, but she smiled. "All right then. Let us show them what humans are made of." The final assault came at sunset. Collective armor rolled through the colony streets, supported by thousands of infantry. The human defenders fought from every building, every window, every shadow. They used their last missiles, their last grenades, their last bullets. When the ammunition ran out, they fought with whatever they could find. Tools became weapons. Vehicles became bombs. The collective soldiers, trained for conventional warfare, found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to follow any rules. Colonel Lisa Mbatha made her last stand in the colony's command center. She was out of ammunition, her sword broken, her body covered in wounds. Around her, the last dozen defenders fought with knives in bare hands. A Kragoth warrior burst through the door, his weapon raised. Lisa threw her empty rifle at him and charged. They went down together, and she did not get back up. When the battle finally ended, the collective had taken the colony. But of the 10,000 soldiers they had sent, only 6,000 remained alive. The small colony of 800 humans had held them off for 3 weeks and killed or wounded 4,000 trained warriors. Commander Zetrix walked through the ruins of New Nairobi, his expression grim. Every building was damaged or destroyed. The streets were cratered. The cost of this victory was far higher than anyone had predicted. He found Colonel Mbatha's body in the command center. She had died fighting 5 Kragoth warriors at once, and all 5 bore wounds from her desperate last stand. Zetrix stood over her body for a long moment, then slowly brought his fist to his chest in a warrior's salute. "You fought well," he said quietly. I wish we had met as allies instead of enemies. The news of New Nairobi's fall reached Earth 3 days later, but the full story came from an unexpected source: Ambassador Torvin. The Enlightened One had secretly recorded the entire battle and broadcast it across the Collective's communication network. Billions of beings watched as 800 humans held off an army for 3 weeks. They watched the desperate last stand. They watched the casualty reports. 4,000 Collective soldiers dead or wounded, 800 humans dead, but 0 surrenders. The impact was immediate. Across the Collective, people began questioning the war. If humans were truly dangerous savages, why had they fought so hard to defend a small colony? Why had they offered surrender to their own people, but those people had chosen to fight? Why had their commander saluted her dead enemy? On the Collective's restricted networks, another message began circulating. It was a classified file leaked by Torvin, documenting the Collective's history. The file contained records of 14 other species over the past million years, species that had been deemed incompatible with collective society. Species that had been sterilized, their worlds burned, their people erased from existence. The file showed that these species had not been monsters. They had been different, unconventional, or simply unwilling to submit to collective authority. The Collective had not been protecting peace. It had been enforcing conformity. Protests erupted on 50 worlds. Several member species began demanding answers from their governments. The Torvin, who had been part of the Collective for 3 million years, formally withdrew their membership in protest of the war. In the Crucible Station, Archon Valeth faced a crisis unlike any in her 200 years of leadership. The Collective was fracturing. Species that had been allies for millennia were now shouting at each other in assembly. The war with humanity, which was supposed to be a simple police action, had become a disaster. "We cannot continue this war," Ambassador Kelthrow from the Heptani delegation argued. "Every attack on human colonies costs us thousands of soldiers, and every attack makes us look like oppressors to our own people." "We cannot back down now," War Chief Dravok countered. "If we show weakness, every rebellious species will think they can defy us. We must crush humanity completely to preserve order." Veleth raised her hand for silence. "Both of you are missing the larger problem. Humanity is not the disease. They are the symptom. For 1 million years we have enforced peace through suppression. We have silenced species, hidden ourselves, and called it wisdom. But what have we created? A galaxy where people fear speaking, fear reaching beyond their worlds, fear being judged unworthy." She turned to face the full assembly. Ambassador James Okafor stood before the Assembly of World Leaders in Geneva, his face serious. Behind him, a holographic display showed a map of the galaxy with a single point marked in red. "This is the Crucible," Okafor said, "the central governing station of the Collective. It is located in neutral space, equidistant from the territories of all major member species. This is where their leadership meets. This is where they make their decisions about the galaxy." The Russian premier leaned forward. "Why are you showing us this, Ambassador?" "Because I believe we need to go there," Okafor replied. "Not to attack, to talk." The room erupted in protest. The American president raised her voice above the others. "Talk? They have killed thousands of our people. They destroyed the Magellan. They invaded New Nairobi." "Yes," Okafor said calmly, "and we have killed thousands of theirs. This war has been going on for 8 months, and neither side is winning. We hold 7 colonies now, but every one of them is under constant attack. Earth's military is stretched thin protecting our people, and the Collective is fracturing from within because of this war." He changed the display to show news footage from across the Collective. Protests on alien worlds, species withdrawing from the Alliance, public debates about the morality of the war. "We are not just fighting a military battle," Okafor continued. "We are fighting a political one, and we are winning that battle. Many species in the Collective are questioning their leaders. Some, like the Torvin, have openly joined our side, but the hardliners are still in control and they want to escalate." The Chinese premier spoke. "What exactly are you proposing?" "I propose that we send a diplomatic mission directly to the Crucible. We take our entire fleet to protect it, and we demand a seat at their assembly. We force them to talk to us face to face, not through weapons and death." "They will never allow it," the Japanese prime minister said. "Then we fight our way there," Okafor replied. "But we broadcast every moment of the journey. We show the galaxy that we came in peace, that we asked for dialogue, and that we were willing to talk. If the collective refuses, if they attack a diplomatic mission, they lose the moral high ground forever. General Rodriguez from the Earth Defense Force stood up. And if we lose the fleet? That is our entire space navy. If they destroy it, Earth will be defenseless. If we lose the fleet in a military defeat, yes, Earth is defenseless, Okafor agreed. But if we lose the fleet while trying to make peace, then Earth becomes a symbol. Every species in the galaxy will know that humanity tried to talk, tried to end the bloodshed, and the collective murdered us for it. The collective will tear itself apart from internal pressure. He looked around the room at each leader. We are gambling either way. We can keep fighting these small battles, bleeding slowly, hoping we survive long enough to build a real military, or we can force the issue now while we have the advantage of public sympathy. The debate lasted for 6 hours. In the end, the vote was close, but it passed. Humanity would send a diplomatic mission to the Crucible, protected by every warship Earth had built. 2 weeks later, the human fleet assembled in orbit around Mars. 32 warships, the largest military force humanity had ever created. They were small by collective standards, and their weapons were primitive, but they represented everything Earth could build in less than a year. At the center of the fleet was the diplomatic vessel Horizon, a civilian ship retrofitted with the best shields and communication equipment Earth possessed. Ambassador Okafor stood on its bridge wearing formal diplomatic robes from his native Nigeria. All ships report ready, Admiral Chen reported. She was Sarah Chen's sister, promoted rapidly due to her tactical skills. The fleet is yours to command, Ambassador. Thank you, Admiral, Okafor said. Broadcast our message on all channels, including the collective networks. A communications officer activated the transmission. Okafor spoke clearly, knowing his words would be heard across the galaxy within hours. This is Ambassador James Okafor of Earth, speaking for humanity. We are traveling to the Crucible to request formal dialogue with the collective leadership. We come not as invaders, but as people seeking peace. We ask for safe passage. We ask for the chance to speak. We ask for the chance to be heard, he paused. If we are refused, if we are attacked, the galaxy will know that the collective fears words more than weapons. We are coming to the Crucible. Your choice is whether we talk or fight our way there. The fleet engaged its FTL drives and jumped toward the first waypoint. The journey to the Crucible would take 2 weeks, passing through 7 different territories. Okafor knew that the collective would have to make a decision at each jump point, allow them to pass or attack. The first system was Kragoth territory. When the human fleet emerged from FTL, they found 50 Kragoth warships waiting for them. The human fleet immediately went to battle stations. Then something unexpected happened. War Chief Dravok himself appeared on the communication channel. Human fleet, Dravok said, I am ordered to stop you from proceeding. Okafor stepped forward. Then you will have to destroy us, War Chief. We will defend ourselves, but we will not fire first. Dravok was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke again, and his voice was different, thoughtful. I fought at New Nairobi, Dravok said. I watched your Colonel Mbata and her warriors hold off 10,000 soldiers for 3 weeks. I have never seen such courage, such refusal to surrender. He paused. The Kragoth value strength above all things. You humans have shown strength. You have shown warrior spirit. I will not stop you today. The Kragoth fleet moved aside, creating a clear path. The human fleet proceeded, and Okafor released a breath he had been holding. At the second system, Silenti territory, the outcome was different. The Silenti had lost 3 colonies to human expansion and were furious. Their fleet attacked immediately. The battle was brutal. The human fleet lost 4 ships and 8,000 sailors died in the fighting. But they destroyed twice as many Silenti vessels and broke through the blockade. As they jumped to FTL, Okafor ensured that every moment of the battle was broadcast across the galaxy. We came in peace, he said into the camera. We asked for passage. They answered with weapons. We defend ourselves. The third system was controlled by the Hepthani, a species that had remained neutral in the conflict. Their fleet was present but did not engage. They simply watched as the humans passed through. By the time the human fleet reached the sixth system, something remarkable was happening. Ships from other species began joining the human fleet. First came Torvan vessels, then Hepthani ships, then others, species that wanted change, that wanted peace, that believed humanity deserved to be heard. When the human fleet finally emerged at the Crucible, They numbered 70 ships from 12 different species. It was the most unlikely alliance the galaxy had ever seen. The Crucible Station hung before them, enormous and ancient. Okafor could see hundreds of defense platforms surrounding it, and fleets from dozens of species positioned nearby. Archon Velith's voice came through the communication system. Ambassador Okafor, you have violated our space, destroyed our ships, and caused chaos throughout the collective. Why should we grant you an audience? Because you are out of options, Okafor replied calmly. You can destroy us, yes. But look at the ships around me. Those are collective species who believe we deserve to talk. If you kill us now, you kill them too. And the galaxy is watching. Every species can see this moment. He leaned forward. We are here because you gave us no choice. You watched us for 400 years and decided we were not worthy. You suppressed us, judged us in secret, and planned our containment. When we defied that judgment, you tried to kill us. Every step of this conflict has been your choice, not ours. We have been fighting to defend our homes, to protect our right to exist among the stars. You have been fighting to maintain control. So I ask you, Archon, who is really in the wrong here? The silence stretched for minutes. Okafor could see Admiral Chen watching the tactical display, ready to fight if necessary. Finally, Velith spoke. You will be granted an audience, but you will come alone with no weapons, no guards. Agreed, Okafor said immediately. Admiral Chen grabbed his arm. Sir, that is a mistake. They could execute you. Possibly, Okafor said with a slight smile. But I do not think they will. Not with the whole galaxy watching. He boarded a small shuttle and flew to the Crucible alone. When he entered the great assembly chamber, he saw representatives from hundreds of species, all watching him with expressions ranging from curiosity to hatred. Archon Velith stood at the center. Ambassador Okafor, you stand accused of violating collective law, of illegal colonization, of acts of war against collective forces, and of inciting rebellion among our member species. How do you answer these charges? Okafor stood tall. I reject your authority to make those charges. The chamber erupted in angry shouts. Velith raised her hand for silence. You reject our authority? We are the collective. We have maintained peace in this galaxy for millions of years. Peace? Okafor said sharply. Is that what you call it? I call it silence. I call it suppression. I call it the genocide of 14 species who did not meet your standards. He pulled out a datapad and activated a holographic display. Images appeared above the chamber, images that Ambassador Torvin had leaked. The assembly chamber remained silent after Okafor's speech. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Ambassador Torvin rose from his position, his thoughts projecting to everyone present. The human speaks truth, Torvin said. I have been part of this collective for 3 million years. I have watched civilizations rise and fall, and I have watched us become what we once feared, gatekeepers who decide who deserves freedom and who does not. More representatives began to speak. Some defended the old ways, arguing that the silence protocol had prevented countless wars. Others agreed with Torvin, saying that humanity's defiance had exposed deep problems in collective society. The debate raged for hours. Species that had voted together for millennia now found themselves on opposite sides. The chamber divided not along species lines but along philosophical ones, those who valued security and order, and those who valued freedom and growth. Finally, War Chief Dravok stood. The chamber fell silent. The Kragoth were the collective's greatest military power, and Dravok's opinion carried enormous weight. I have fought humans, Dravok said slowly. I expected barbarians. I expected mindless violence. Instead, I found warriors. I found courage. I found loyalty that would not break even in the face of certain death. He turned to face Okafor. The humans are dangerous, yes, but danger is not evil. A warrior is dangerous. A protector is dangerous. Strength is dangerous. The question is not whether humans are dangerous, but whether they use that danger with honor. Dravok paused. At New Nairobi, I watched human soldiers offer their own people the chance to surrender. I watched them fight to the last breath to defend their home. I watched their commander salute her enemies even as she died. That is not savagery. That is warrior spirit. He looked around the chamber. I vote that humanity be granted membership in the collective. The chamber erupted. Archon Velith raised her hands for order, but the shouting continued. Finally, she struck the speaking staff against the floor and the sound echoed like thunder. "Enough," she commanded. "We will vote. But first I will speak." The chamber quieted. Feleth looked at Okafor, and for the first time her cold expression softened slightly. "Ambassador, you have challenged everything we have built. You have broken our laws, killed our soldiers, and divided our society. Part of me hates you for it," she paused. "But another part of me knows you are right. We have become rigid. We have confused peace with silence, order with control. We suppressed you because we were afraid of what you represented. Change." Veleth turned to address the full assembly. "I have been Archon for 200 years. I have maintained stability, prevented wars, and enforced the silence protocol without question. I believed I was protecting the galaxy. But the human is correct. We have not been protectors. We have been judges who never gave the accused a chance to speak." She looked at the images still floating above the chamber, images of the 14 species that had been sterilized. How many of those civilizations could have become valuable members of our society? How many brilliant minds, beautiful cultures, and unique perspectives did we erase because they did not fit our idea of perfection? Veleth's voice grew firm. "I propose we end the silence protocol. I propose we dissolve the collective in its current form and create something new. An accord, not a hierarchy. A federation where species choose to participate, not where they are judged worthy or unworthy. Where new civilizations are contacted, guided, and welcomed, not hidden from and suppressed." The chamber exploded in debate once more. Okafor watched, hardly daring to breathe. This was more than he had hoped for. He had come expecting to negotiate for peace, perhaps earn humanity a small place in the galaxy. Instead, Veleth was proposing to restructure the entire galactic order. The vote took 3 days. Species argued, formed coalitions, broke apart, and reformed. In the end, the result was clear but not unanimous. 512 species voted to create the accord. 300 refused, arguing that the old ways were better. 35 species abstained. Archon Veleth announced the result. "The collective as we knew it is ended. The accord is born. All species are invited to join freely. Those who wish to maintain the old ways may do so in their own territories, but they no longer speak for the galaxy." She turned to Okafor. "Humanity will be granted provisional membership in the accord. But there are conditions. You must help us contact the other species you inspired, the ones who began their own rebellions when they saw your defiance. You must help us integrate them peacefully into galactic society. You wanted to force open the door to the stars. Now you must help hold it open for others." Okafor bowed. "We accept." But not everyone accepted the new order. The 300 species that had voted against the accord withdrew from the Crucible. They formed their own alliance, calling themselves the Pure Collective. They claimed they would maintain the true values of peace and order, free from the chaos humanity had brought. Their leader was a Silenti named High Counselor Thex. In his first address, he was clear about his intentions. "The accord has been corrupted by human influence," Thex declared. "It will bring chaos, war, and destruction. We of the Pure Collective will remain true to the principles that kept the galaxy peaceful for millions of years, and we will defend our territories against any who violate them." 2 months after the accord was formed, the threat became real. A newly contacted species called the Gen sent a desperate message. The Pure Collective had arrived in their system with a fleet and an ultimatum: submit to Pure Collective authority or be destroyed. The Gen were a peaceful species who had only just developed radio technology. They had no defenses, no warships, no way to protect themselves. "This is a test," Admiral Chen said as she briefed the Accord Council. "If we do nothing, the Pure Collective will sterilize the Gen. They are showing the galaxy that they still have power, that they can still enforce the old ways. Then we must respond," Okafor said. "The Accord means nothing if we cannot protect those who need us." The Accord fleet assembled within a week. It was a strange sight. Human warships flying alongside Torvan vessels, Kragoth battle cruisers, Hepthani carriers, and dozens of other species. The fleet numbered 200 ships, commanded jointly by Admiral Chen and War Chief Dravok. When they arrived at the Gen home world, they found the Pure Collective fleet in orbit. 150 warships, all armed and ready. The Gen planet below was defenseless. Its people huddled in shelters, waiting to learn their fate. Admiral Chen opened a communication channel. "Pure Collective Fleet, this is Admiral Chen of the Accord. You will withdraw from the system immediately. The Gen are under Accord protection. High Counselor Thex appeared on screen. The Accord has no authority here. The Gen are a primitive species that has not earned the right to join galactic society. We are enforcing proper protocol. Your protocol is dead, Chen replied. The galaxy has moved on. Leave now, or we will force you to leave. You would start a war over one insignificant species? Thex demanded. We would start a war over the principle that no species is insignificant, Okafor said, stepping into frame beside Chen. That every civilization has the right to grow, to reach for the stars, to make their own mistakes and their own triumphs. That is what the Accord stands for. The pure collective fleet opened fire first. The battle that followed was the largest the galaxy had seen in 1,000,000 years. Ships from dozens of species fought and died in the space above the Gen homeworld. Humanity's flagship, the Defiance, led the charge. It was a new vessel, built with Torvan technology and human ingenuity. On its bridge, Admiral Chen coordinated the Accord fleet's movements while her tactical officers targeted pure collective ships. Incoming missiles portside. A sensor officer shouted. Evasive maneuvers, Chen ordered. Return fire all batteries. The Defiance shook as enemy fire struck its shields. But the ship held together, and its weapons tore through 2 pure collective cruisers. Across the battlefield, the story was the same. The Accord fleet fought with coordination born of necessity, while the pure collective fleet fought with the arrogance of assumed superiority. But superiority was not enough against determination. The battle lasted for 6 hours. When it ended, both sides had taken heavy losses. The pure collective had lost 90 ships. The Accord had lost 75, including the Defiance. Admiral Chen and 40,000 Accord personnel were dead. But the pure collective fleet retreated, and the Gen were safe. On Earth, Sarah Chen stood in her sister's quarters, holding her siblings' personal effects. The Navy had delivered them that morning. A few photographs, a journal, a medal their mother had given her. Sarah felt numb. Her sister had survived Earth's wars, pioneered space combat tactics, and helped forge an alliance between species. And now she was gone. But her sacrifice had not been meaningless. The battle above the Gen homeworld had proven something crucial. The Accord would fight for its principles. It would defend the defenseless. It would not allow the old ways to return. 5 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Accord grew to include 600 species, with more joining each year. The pure collective shrank to just 80 species, isolated in their own territories, refusing contact with the corrupted galaxy. Humanity spread to 200 worlds, always pushing, always exploring, always causing debates in the Accord Council.